and building center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice. And by the 2013 Honda CR-V, an IIHS top safety pick. Honda is the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Welcome to Rogers Center. The Blue Jays coming off a 1-6 road trip, anxious to get things turned around against the red-hot Boston Red Sox. John Farrell's ball club off to the best start in the major leagues. 18-7 for the Red Sox, and here's a look at their lineup. Right off the bat, you've got Ellsbury, Nava, and Pedroia top of the order, then David Ortiz. His career at Rogers Center has been a good one. 30 home runs and 82 driven in. He's red hot now, heading over 500 since he's come back. And Mike Napoli. Boy, what a pickup Napoli has been. He has extra base hits, 18 of them, and 27 RBIs, and he has really been more than they bargained for when they signed him, and they'll be up against Brandon Morrow making his 6th start of the season.
Well, Brandon's going to have to come out and establish the fastball early. Pete Walker would like to see him throw more curveballs early, but that really depends on whether he can locate it. He's obviously not going to be throwing a lot of curveballs if he's struggling with the location. And Brandon's velocity is something we should be watching too, because a couple of the games he's come out of the bullpen and just had this lower velocity from his fastball.
Defense has been a problem for the Blue Jays. They've committed 16 errors, and that's put a lot of pressure on the pitchers. Cabrera, Rasmussen, Bautista left to right in the outfield. Brett Flory making his 14th start at third base. Meiser stirs just his 3rd start at shortstop. Bonifacio's at second. Encarnacion has played very well defensively at first. Aaron Sebia and Morrow team up for the battery tonight as they're trying to get this team off to a good start on this homestand.
And we can kind of key in on the middle infielders with Asturis and Bonifacio. Asturis, like you mentioned, not too many games touched there at shortstop, and Boney back at second base. So we'll see if they can maybe turn a couple double plays today.
Now, Jacoby Ellsbury will start things off for the Red Sox, and we had mentioned he has hit well against Brandon Morrow. He has 3 career home runs against Morrow. Here's the first pitch of the ball game. Upstairs with the fastball. Ellsbury's hit in 22 of his last 25 ball games. He's a great table setter, and once he gets on, he has the ability to steal bases. There's a good fastball that evens the count. You mentioned the velocity. What are you looking for from Morrow? What would you like to see this first inning?
Well, the one thing that he's very aware of what these guys have hit, the top of the order especially, and maybe establish that fastball in. You notice he's going away. And that kind of bothers me a little bit because you want the inside part of the plate first so you can get the outside part of the plate.
2 balls and a strike. That off-speed pitch misses up and away. First innings are always a challenge for starters. They come out of the bullpen trying to get acclimated to the mound, trying to control their emotions, and more than importantly, trying to control the strike zone. Here's the 3-1 pitch. Upstairs, good fastball at 94.
Well, velocity is there, and maybe what they did in the bullpen has helped, but he's primarily throwing fastballs. He did throw 1 changeup. You're right, though, Buck. They're usually coming out there. They're just trying to feel their way through that first hitter a lot of times, and that's why a lot of the good leadoff guys are sitting dead red fastball, because they're usually just trying to get that over.
Just missed with the fastball. 96, but downstairs for a leadoff walk. So now Morrow has to work out of the stretch immediately. And with that, you got to keep your eye on Ellsbury. He's 11 for 12 in steal attempts this season. Daniel Nava, boy, he has stepped it up. 310 average, but look at the RBIs. 16 RBIs for Nava, who was not figured on to be a big part of their offense, but he has turned into that. Ellsbury will work for the big lead. Morrow folds behind. One thing the Red Sox will do, and they do it against everybody, is they'll work the pitcher over. They're a patient group. They don't really go up there with a freewheeling attitude. They want to see if the pitcher is going to challenge him and throw strikes.
The other thing a lot of times starting pitcher will try to do is just to kind of feel out the home plate umpire, see what his strike zone's going to be.
When you get that borderline pitch, can you expand the strike zone? All those things are some things that pitchers would like to figure out early. Ball on the strike, Ellsbury at first. And right back to that outside corner, and so far he's getting the benefit of that wide strike.
And JP throwing the glove up there and holding still, that's one thing that all the pitchers tried to get him to do more of, is get the target up early and stay there.
Coming inside. 1-2. This missed on the inside edge.
You saw that fastball just kind of tailing back, but basically went right around the plate, just missing on the inner half.
Like so many of the Red Sox hitters, they're all swinging the bats well right now. Nava has reached base in 18 of his 21 games this year. 2-2. Ball is popped in the air. Rasmus to his left, all the way on the warning track. Now Ellsbury goes back to tag, but he'll stop as Rasmus got the ball on line to the cutoff man. That ball carried really deep. It looked like a routine pop-up. It took Rasmus all the way to the edge of the warning track.
Yeah, and Buck, one thing we're noticing, we come back to Rogers Center, and the fact that with the roof closed, the ball really does seem to carry towards the power alleys in right center and left center, straightaway center field.
Dustin Pedroia, .330 average, looking for his first home run of the season. Good strike. Again, another Red Sox hitter just surveying Brandon Morrow, seeing what he's featuring early in this game.
Well, that's what Boston did so well in the first series here at Rogers Center, is they're very patient at the plate. And we're not swinging out of the zone very much, and that's a sign of a good, disciplined team.
Inside, but way off the plate. Morrow feels a lot better about his stuff of late. He's starting to really come together. All of his pitches have been effective.
Well, he's gone through a little bit of a stiffness in his elbow area.
On the ground. Laurie was deep at third. He tried to barehand it and couldn't come up with the handle. That might have been his only chance. He was deep at third base, and Pedroia chopped it off home plate. He'll be credited with an infield hit.
Well, Pedroia does this with the best of them. He can slap the ball off the plate, bounce it, little swinging bunt base hit. Laurie, like you said, Buck, he had one shot. That was barehanded instantly and throw it all in one motion. By the time he bobbled it, Pedroia runs just too well to worry about it getting him out.
Well, here are the Red Sox in the first inning, and they've got the guys on they wanted for this guy, Big Papi, David Ortiz. Look at his numbers. 516 since he's rejoined the ball club. 8 games. He's driven in 11 runs. Was after that first pitch, and that's a good fastball upstairs.
Well, that's where they want to pitch him. They'd like to run it in a little bit closer to the inner half of the plate, but David Ortiz is still a very good off-speed low ball hitter. And the way to get him out, if you can, is up and in with the hard fastballs.
Ortiz has driven in a run in each of his last 5 games. Has a chance to do that here in the first. Pulled on the ground, and Morrow's ahead. You know, we talk so much about Ortiz and his prodigious numbers, but he's a smart hitter.
Yes, he is.
And he understands that now with 2 strikes, he's going to be a little less aggressive and try to pick up Ellsbury from second. Oh, and 2. Got him. Good hard breaking ball, and Ortiz strikes out. I love that. He came right at him with 2 strikes and gets a quick strikeout.
Well, that's just being aggressive right there. And there's the hard slider. Broke more like the curveball. I don't know if he throws the curveball that hard, though, so it's got to be the slider. And it just bit. David Ortiz looking fastball again. He's trying to protect, and that's the difference when you have 2 strikes and when you're behind in the count.
Not out of the woods yet. Mike Napoli, we mentioned his 27 RBIs, and he has really been a great clutch hitter for the Red Sox. Napoli against Morrow, just 2 for 14. Nothing like strike one.
Strike one works all day long. 95-mile-an-hour fastballs, pretty much splitting the heart of the plate. Napoli, of course, is a very good fastball hitter. But he's like Ortiz. He will look for pitches depending on the count.
Napoli is second in the American League to Chris Davis in runs batted in. Oh, 0-2 on Mike Napoli, and here are the numbers. Davis has 28 for the Orioles, Napoli 27, and then Cabrera, you always know he's up there, and right behind him is Prince Fielder, his teammate. So Mike Napoli is doing exactly what the Red Sox hoped he would do when they signed him. He's driving in runs. Another 0-2 pitch, 2 outs. Ellsbury at second with a walk. Pedroia had an infield single. He's at first. Breaking ball is fouled out of play.
Little off-speed pitch. Been throwing the fastball in the mid-90s. That ball 88 miles an hour, so he took a little something off the slider. Tried to get Napoli out in front.
Five-game hit streak and 4 doubles. That's what a run producer does. He hits extra base hits, and Napoli has 18 of them. Morrow and Aaron Sebia took a little bit too long for Napoli, and he asked for time. And Aaron Sebia is going to go through the set of signs again.
Well, he's ahead in the count. He's got a couple pitches to waste if he can. 2 strikes, 2 outs.
Hard breaking ball in the dirt.
Not a bad pitch there, but it's always the case, Buck, and you know it as well as I. When a guy's swinging well, he doesn't bite at those pitches.
Yeah, I've seen the ball well, even though he's not fared well against Morrow in the past. He feels good about what he's doing, and rightly so, hitting .280. Got 13 doubles. Morrow with a chance to get out of the inning. He's ahead of Napoli, 1-2. Fastball upstairs, and he fouls it. That's 97. That's a good sign.
Well, that's like opening day for Brandon. His first start, he was throwing all the way up to 99 a couple pitches. So his velocity seems to be back, and that might have a lot to do with what really it's kind of kept secret. He didn't really want to talk about it too much, the writers, but apparently he had a little stiffness in his elbow, and certainly that'll prevent you from getting it up there.
Red Sox, as they always do, push a pitcher early in the ball game. Morrow has thrown 22 pitches already. A little bit of a slide step right there to mess up with the timing, and Napoli was late. Morrow trying to figure out how he can end this inning. Haven't seen him do that much before.
Kind of reminiscent of Esmail Rogers, who does that quick step sometimes when runners are on base.
They crossed him up.
Yeah.
Aaron Sebia was looking for a high fastball.
Yeah.
He got a hard slider. It's fortunate that JP could catch it.
You don't throw a breaking ball up in the zone. That's never a thing. When JP went up, Brandon probably got a little confused. He throws a slider there, and that ball could have gone all the way to the backstop.
Yeah, they've had a couple of meetings this inning, and it's kind of surprising. But You got to believe they're somewhat paranoid with Ellsbury standing at second for as long as he's been out there that he might relay location or pitch selection. So now let's see if Aaron Sebe even bothers to give a sign. Morrow knows what he wants. 2-2, 2 outs. Quite a battle going on here between Napoli and Morrow. That's 8 pitches now to Napoli.
And you see there on the pitch tracks, 6 of those are right in that box. So he's challenged him right across the plate.
Throw one just inside the 2. That'll get her done.
That would tie him up.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Red Sox threatening in the top of the first. Another fastball, another foul back.
Well, these are the tough at-bats for a pitcher, especially when you are living in a day and age where pitch count's important. You got a guy up, has a 10-pitch at-bat and counting. You realize you got 1/10 of the way there.
5 foul balls off the bat of Napoli. Inside, number 10 on the inner half, that it ties up Napoli. Morrow bows his neck and strikes out Ortiz and Napoli. John Lester will take the mound after Morrow had a long inning but successful finish. Sox off the scoreboard. Now it's up to the offense to get something going, and with that in mind, we'll look right at the top of the order. Brett Laurie is in the leadoff spot, and against Boston, he's done a good job hitting nearly 300, but more importantly, his on-base percentage, 363, and they need him to get on base and get this offense going. Edwin Encarnacion had a heck of a road trip. Hit over 300, and 5 of those 8 hits left the ballpark. He hit 5 home runs and drove in 8. And boy, did he put on a show today, MVP, getting ready for John Lester.
And you see the numbers there for John Lester. He's had a very good start for Boston, pitching here in his 6th start of April. He's 4-0 with a 2.27 there, and primarily a fastball pitcher early in the game. That's one thing he's changed a little bit, and he's had success with it this year.
Brett Laurie takes one up and away. Laurie has a home run against John Lester. Came in a leadoff role at Fenway Park at the first pitch of the ball game out of the park. Lester beat the Blue Jays here back on April 7th. Went up against R.A. Dickey, and Dickey had a bad fingernail, didn't have much of a knuckleball, and Lester went 7 innings and beat the Blue Jays 13-0. Bouncing ball to short. Stephen Drew in time. 1 down. Well, the Red Sox have played very good defense. Just 10 errors so far. Mike Carp gets a start in left field. Gold Glover Kobe Ellsbury won that in 2011. Daniel Nava is in right. On the infield, it's Middlebrooks and Drew on the left side. Dustin Pedroia has 2 Gold Gloves to his credit. Mike Napoli is playing at first. Jared Saltalamacchia behind the plate for John Lester.
And the 2 middle infielders, you see Stephen Drew right there, and of course the staple for the Red Sox for the last few years, Dustin Pedroia. Drew back at his normal position.
Rajay Davis shows bunt, takes the ball. Davis is the DH tonight. John Gibbons trying to get as many right-handed bats in the lineup against Lester as possible. Lester's fastball, as Jack mentioned, has been a big part of his game's success this year and uses it early.
You know, it's a good formula for pitchers, and their longevity is established that fastball early, and if you don't need to show them anything else, you have something else to show them later in the game. There's the first curveball he's thrown.
Hitters will definitely tell you what you need to adjust to. Go ahead and throw that fastball until they prove that they can hit it. Down and in.
Well, Buck, we talk about being aggressive, and that's kind of what we're talking about right there is fastballs and challenging them early. Go ahead. Hit it out if you can, but I'm not going to walk you early in the game. I'm going to not just try to make sure my defense touches the ball.
So Davis takes the walk. Lester had 6 walks in his last outing against Oakland, just 5 2/3. And he also gave up his first home run of the season to Chris Young, a 3-run home run. So now they got a home run hitter at the plate, Jose Bautista. He's homered in 4 of his last 5 games against Boston. So both starters have walked a batter in the first inning. Davis with a huge lead at first. There he goes. Bautista takes it up and away, and Davis slides and gets back to the bag. He overslid the bag, and Pedroia stayed with him. Saltalamacchia's throw was high, and Davis picks up his 6th steal of the season.
Well, Rajay doesn't explode right out of the box a lot like some of the great base stealers, but his last few steps are very explosive. He can really make up ground in the last 15 feet of the base path.
You always have to keep your eye on him when he's at second.
Yeah.
Bautista drives it to center. Ellsbury back, looking up, off the wall. Rajay's around third. He's going to score, and Bautista with an RBI double has given the Blue Jays a 1-0 lead.
Well, if the Jays are going to start picking up the offense, the leader of the pack, Jose Bautista, is going to have to start doing a little more of that. He's going to get a share of home runs, but to see him hit the ball straight up the middle is a good sign. And Rajay doing all he has to do is make sure it's not caught before he takes off. With his speed, he's going to be able to score.
Ellsbury looked up and hit halfway up the wall in center. Bautista picks up his 12th RBI of the season, and Lester works to Encarnacion. We mentioned Edwin had a good road trip. 5 homers and 8 driven in. Inside, he's got to jump out of the way. Edwin is a pull hitter, much like Bautista, and the defense reflects that.
Well, they've got the shift on right now. Pedroia playing basically where a shortstop would when they're playing him up the middle, a double play ball.
2-0 to Encarnacion. He hit it hard, but it might have been ball 3. But that's what he does.
Yeah,
he's
that's
a producer.
That's the fine line between 3 and 4 hitters. Is sometimes you're overly aggressive, but
First pitch is down and away. That's the first time he's gone outside, and he makes a perfect pitch to even the count at 2-2.
Well, that's why you have to establish inside so that you can get that pitch. If you stay out there, everybody will adjust. Everybody.
He bounced that ball, and Saltalamacchia does a good job to keep it in front of him.
That's how you move their feet right there.
Had to move both of them to get out of the way. So it's a full count. Melky Cabrera is on deck. High and deep to left. That's going to hang up. Ellsbury over in the gap makes the catch, and Bautista will hold at second. So now there are two down. Lester got that fastball in on the hands of Encarnacion. Now Melky Cabrera a chance to deliver with two outs. Blue Jays a 1-0 lead. Bautista with the double drove in Rajay Davis from second. A walk and a stolen base, and Bautista capitalized. Cabrera goes after the first pitch. Cabrera's hit well against John Lester. 9 for 27, 333 clip. We haven't seen Cabrera get hot yet. And he's a guy the last few years that's been a very good hitter and a very streaky hitter. When he gets on a hot streak, it's tough to get him out. Late swing at a breaking ball.
You saw the location of that curveball right there, and not necessarily where you want to throw it up in the zone, but the fact that he's changing speeds with it gets Melky out in front a little, and he's going to get away with it because of that.
Cabrera in a hole, 0-2. Bautista is running. Ball is pulled foul at third. Bautista had a terrific jump. Once Pedroia had backed off at second, he broke, and Lester was delivering the pitch home.
Well, Middlebrooks has moved back at third base, pretty much saying, Jose, if you want it, go ahead. We need to get the guy out at the plate.
Yeah, generally, defense won't cover in a situation like that with a right-handed bat at the plate. Cabrera stays alive. Blue Jays have made John Lester work this inning. He's thrown 20 pitches in his first inning tonight. He doesn't look quite as sharp as we saw him back in April. Back in the first week of April, April 7th, he pitched here, and he was dominant.
Yeah, that's one thing I was able to talk to John Gibbons about before the game, is somehow getting something generated in that first inning.
Lester strikes out Melky Cabrera to end the first inning, but the Blue Jays break through first. Jose Bautista, a long double off the wall in center, drives home Rajay Davis. Jays are up 1-0. and help out the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are currently neck and neck with the Dodgers for that $10,000 prize. Mike Karp, the left fielder, starting out there tonight, .455 average. He's driven in 5 runs.
Well, there's the curveball, finally getting it over here in the second inning. And it's a good one when he can keep it right down there.
Fastball upstairs, and that's the effect of that curveball.
Exactly. See how late he was. 95-mile-an-hour fastball, and the two complement each other very well. The location of the curveball in the strike zone. A lot of times hitters just freeze on it. They're taking it because they are looking for the fastball, and they see something spinning. They're just going to freeze.
Slider, and Mike Karp is down. 3 strikeouts in a row. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Mark Reynolds has 8 home runs and 22 RBIs. He has been a big power bat for the Cleveland Indians, and he got to dock tonight. Zach McAllister is the starter for Cleveland. Halliday's ERA after that rough first inning is at .593. Jared Saltalamacchia makes the first pitch strike. Brandon Morrow looks sharp.
Yeah, all of a sudden Brandon Morrow starting to locate his fastball. And when he can locate it at that kind of velocity, he's going to have himself a good night. Everything else will fall into place.
He's got a terrific arsenal of pitches.
Yes, he does.
The velocity from the fastball, slow breaking ball, hard breaking ball, and that split grip changeup that's so effective.
I would describe Brandon as the kind of guy whose wrist determines the way he pitches, and it's a kind of a quiet explosion is what it is. You don't see it, and all of a sudden, right at the end, his wrist flick absolutely makes the ball explode. He doesn't muscle up, in other words.
4 strikeouts in a row. Make sure you log on to Twitter at Blue Jays and help out the Jays. Morrow's doing his part.
You see the slider right there again. Similar to what he did with David Ortiz.
Just had a feeling Morrow was going to come out and be on his game tonight against Boston. Kind of saw him working up to this.
Well, when I was talking with Pete Walker before the game, he said, you know, I've already talked to Brandon, not only about the first inning and the guys that have hit him well, but he told me, you know, he feels real good today. And he says, that's a good sign because he hasn't told me that yet this year.
Yeah, most of the time you say to a pitcher, how you feeling? Oh, all right. 0-2, 2 outs, make it strike 3. Morrow strikes out the side in the second. He's struck out 5 straight, setting the tone for the Jays early in this game. Mike Karp, the left-hander, over the top of a slider. Jared Saltalamacchia, slider as well. And Will Middlebrooks, 3 in a row in the second. starting at 7:07. And J.P. Arencibia will take the first pitch from John Lester. Clay Buchholz goes to the mound tomorrow against Mark Burley. Then Ryan Dempster against Josh Johnson. Big slow breaking ball, and that puts the count at 0-2 to Arencibia.
There's another breaking ball right there. John Lester primarily likes to establish his fastball early in the game. And one thing John Farrell, when he was managing the Blue Jays, saw in John Lester was that he was throwing uphill with his fastball. A lot like that one right there. What that really means is that he's rushing his lower body and dragging his arm. And sometimes it gives the appearance that your arm's dragging and you're throwing uphill. And what he tried to get him to do is shorten his stride a little bit, get your arm up quicker, and you'll throw downhill.
Hot shot to Middlebrooks. He handles it and throws Arencibia out. So explain to me what you mean by throwing uphill. How can a pitcher get to that point of his delivery?
Well, what I mean by that is a lot of times you'll have a guy throw where his body's rushing. By rushing, your arm's not catching up, and you're dragging your elbow, and the ball is actually coming almost uphill. Where when you slow down and you pull through, your shoulder's guiding towards the mound, and you get your arm out in front, and therefore your arm's out in front more, and you're throwing more of a downward angle.
And anytime you see a pitcher throwing at a downward angle, it presents a challenge to the hitters because they have a tendency to see the top of the ball. Meiser Asturias takes a fastball on the outside corner. It's a ball and a strike.
Well, it's a different plane, you know. Instead of being vertical straight across, it's a downward angle, and the plane's different.
The looper into center. Ellsbury will get there, and that's 2 outs. Fans, it's time for our BlackBerry Sneak Peek stat of the game, brought to you by the new BlackBerry Z10, built to keep you moving.
And there shows the improvement that Lester's had with his fastball compared to 2012 opponent's batting averages.
And because you get hit around with your fastball, you have a tendency to shy away from it, and then your secondary pitches aren't quite as effective as well. Colby Rasmus takes the first pitch strike. Boy, so much is predicated on your ability to command the fastball. Everything is set up by your fastball command and how frequently you can throw it for a strike. Rasmus bounces it up the middle. Pedroia with a terrific catch, but he's not going to have a play. It's a 2-out infield hit for Colby Rasmus.
Well, Dustin Pedroia was trying to get creative right there. When he got to the ball, I know he was going to flip it to Stephen Drew, but he couldn't find him. He didn't know exactly where he was. Right here, you can see he's trying to flip it to his shortstop so he might have a play at it, but he couldn't get the ball out of his glove. And that's just baseball instincts right there. You don't teach that stuff. They don't practice that with the ground balls every day.
That is not in the playbook, that's for sure. He was just thinking about any way to get it out, then Rasmus keeps the inning alive. Emilio Bonifacio, the number 9 hitter. Switch hitter batting right-handed against John Lester. Bonifacio's off to a tough start with the bat, batting just 188. I think there's a lot of upside in his game. He's got 7 doubles and a triple already. And he's kind of a spark plug offensive player. We really haven't seen the impact of his speed. He hasn't had a stolen base yet. Big wild swing, and that evens the count at a ball and a strike.
The other thing he brings, Buck, and I think most of his teammates and coaching staff recognize it, is he brings the energy. With Jose Reyes not in the lineup, he's the one guy that can bring that energy, and he's an explosive base runner if he can get on. He came out early today, and Luis Rivera was hitting him ground balls at second Shown him a lot of things that he felt he needed to do. It was quite interesting to watch. They came out early, just the two of them. And he was working on moving to his left and moving to his right.
Bonifacio hasn't played a lot of second base, so Luis Rivera's trying to help him improve with the fundamentals, how he sets up, how he receives the ground balls. 1-2, 2 outs. John Lester, we're just going to see if Rasmus would tip his hand, and he was going to hold that baseball, not make any decision whatsoever.
A lot of times a pitcher will do that to a base runner, and the bottom line is the hitter eventually says enough's enough and calls timeout.
Fastball on the outside corner. Bonifacio strikes out, and Lester leaves the base runner at first. Brandon Morrow is all set to come out for the top of the third, and he is in a groove. He has struck out 5 straight Red Sox hitters. Jose Bautista has driven in the only run of the ball game. He had a double off the wall in center field to pick up his 12th RBI of the season. Brandon Morrow, 5 straight strikeouts. Number 9 hitter is Stephen Drew. Drew is the shortstop. Finished up last season with the Oakland Athletics. It's right back in that strike zone. When he can throw that pitch down and away for a strike, that's when he's at his best, in my mind.
Absolutely. Well, he just, again, we talked about John Lester in the arm angle. Right there, Brandon Morrow showing exactly what we mean by throwing downhill.
The Blue Jays franchise record for strikeouts in a row is 6. Morrow is one off that right now. It's been done 3 times in the past. Mark Zebchinski, Ted Lilly, and Jay Happ.
You mean there wasn't a Clemens or a Cone or a Stewart or even an old bugger named Morris that did that?
Not even a right-hander to be found, all lefties. And that's going to snap that streak of 5 in a row, but he'll take the out. Fans, if you want your baseball questions answered by our team of experts, email asktheexperts@sportsnet.ca and keep your eye out for the Home Hardware Ask the Expert segment later on in the game. So now that record is going to stand, at least for the time being. Well, he can put together 6 more in this game.
Sure he could. That way he could go for the all-time record.
Back to the top of the order, Jacoby Ellsbury drew a lead off a walk to start the game. Boy, there is nothing like strike one, is there?
Changes everything. Makes 300 hitters less than that.
Just missed something off that. That's that split-fingered changeup he throws, and it will, first of all, take velocity off his fastball, but secondly, it can create a lot of downward movement. Good fastball. You can see Ellsbury never even flinched with that fastball because it was so far off the plate. You've got to make it more of a strike to be effective.
Well, and you also see it tailing. It's always coming back. When he throws it to a left-hander, it's kind of coming back towards the plate. So he can start it on the corner, and usually he'll catch the plate.
Missed with that changeup, 3-1.
And he's not a guy you want to walk. So you got to come after him.
Walked him once already.
Got a run to work with. Let him hit a home run. Throw it over the middle.
And he walked him. Ellsbury walks for a second time.
Blue Jays on Sportsnet. Brought to you by the 2013 Honda CR-V, an IIHS top safety pick. Honda is the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Blue Jays have a 1-0 lead. One out in the third, Daniel Nava, the right fielder. Nava flied out to Rasmus in the first inning. Right now, Morrow is having trouble finding the strike zone. He needs to get command of that strike zone back quickly.
See the numbers there for Nava. He's having a good start.
Tell me what you would do when you got into a situation where you wouldn't throw strikes. You couldn't throw strikes. How would you try to make the adjustment on the mound?
Well, throwing a baseball is a touch feel thing. You have to be able to make the adjustment from pitch to pitch. You can't throw three of the same pitches in the same place. And a lot of times a catcher will give you little signs, like if you're up in the zone, a catcher will throw his glove towards the ground, point to the ground, saying, get it down, get it down. And what you really want to do is get your arm up quicker and shorten your stride a little so you can adjust, make those adjustments. When you're down the zone, it's a little harder. You've got to try to throw uphill a little bit.
There they throw a strike.
Quite honestly, Buck, for me, it was rare that I was throwing the ball down too much. It was usually up too much.
And that's when you'd want the catcher to emphasize the target low.
Exactly. Or if I did it twice in a row, I might go to the slider. I might throw a different pitch just to get back with my rhythm.
2 balls and a strike. Ellsbury at first. Another fly ball. This one hit a little bit deeper. Rasmus looks at Milky and the left fielder takes it, and Ellsbury retreats to first. So Morrow has retired Nava on the same type of pitch in the same location, basically a lazy fly ball to left. But now he has to get out his nemesis, Dustin Pedroia. Pedroia is now 11 for 21 against Morrow.
Well, when you throw out the kind of base hit that he got in the first inning, you understand why. I mean, some guys have all the luck. But,
now you sound just like a pitcher when you say that.
Well, my goodness. A family member would hardly even want to take that as a hit. But the opposition would.
Pedroia up 337 now with that little dribbler down the third baseline. Clint Fagan, the home plate umpire, is jawing back and forth with the Blue Jays dugout.
You can see why John Gibbons is a little upset with the location there.
And Sabia blocks that ball in the dirt.
John probably yelled back, well, that one was down.
There is an art to bench jockeying, no question about it. A lot of times, some of my teammates, of course, not me, but they'd say something, if you could see as good as you could hear, we'd be all right. 2 balls, no strikes. There's that other one. He said, hey, I had a hit there before. Pedroia fouls this one up the third baseline. Yeah, I'm sure you had some pretty good bench jockeys on those Tiger teams early on.
Yeah. Back in our era, Buck, I think the umpires took a little bit more from the players and the coaches. They weren't so sensitive. But I think they've all been kind of conditioned not to put up with that anymore.
It's unfortunate. It was a colorful part of the game.
We laughed a lot.
Good pitch down and away. Morrow gets the call this time.
Pedroia is one of those hitters, and is kind of rare from the right side, where he's almost running as soon as he swings. I mean, he really has his feet moving, and that's why he gets a lot of the hits like he did in the first inning. He was off and running there when he slapped the other one to Laurie.
Ellsbury at first, 2 down. They're going to say that hit him in the batter's box, and John Gibbons giving a close look to the umpire. As you mentioned, Pedroia gets a running start, and that would have been close for him to be out of the batter's box. But if he's still in the box when that ball bounces up and hits him, it's a foul ball.
And he was.
Yep. He was clearly.
That happens so fast, you sometimes think he's out of the box, but our eyes are a little deceived by that. That's why the camera can show it a lot better.
Another 2-2 pitch to Pedroia. Ball is lined to right. Bautista makes a running catch on the chest high liner. Morrow gives up a walk and nothing more. Blue Jays have a 1-0 lead. Laurie, Davis, and Bautista against John Lester when we come back. TD in support of Jays Care Foundation. Wednesday, May 15th, when the Blue Jays take on the San Francisco Giants. The game starts at 7:07 p.m. Bid on exclusive Blue Jays experiences and one-of-a-kind memorabilia. Bidding starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time and closes 10 minutes after the final out of the 7th inning. Visit BlueJays.com/baseball auction for more details. The world champion San Francisco Giants will be at Rogers Center May 15th for that broadcast auction.
And they've got a few pitchers that can light it up.
Do they ever? Madison Bumgarner, the young left-hander, is off to the best start, and that's a veteran crew. Matt Cain, a little bit of a struggle to get his season untracked, but then again, you pitch into late October, it's going to take you a while to find yourself again. Look out!
I think that touched the bill of his cap. That was so close to taking his noggin off. It was lower than I thought.
Yeah, it was lower.
The upper camera had it
right by his glove. That was scorched.
This is the angle that I.
That angle looked like it was right by the bill of his
cap.
cap. Yep. I don't know how you pitchers do it. I do not know how you throw the ball without flinching every time a guy swings the bat.
Well, Bucket, you get tattooed a few times on your body parts, and you realize that the inside part of the plate and the outside part of the plate is where you have to live. Your third baseman and first baseman are almost 90 feet plus away most of the time. When you deliver a ball, you're probably 55, 53 feet away, and it is scary at times. It really is.
Rajai Davis gets hit. Davis gets hit on that elbow pad, and he'll go to first base. So the Blue Jays have something cooking against Lester here in the third. Trying to come inside with that fastball, and Davis just doesn't get that elbow out of the way. That protective pad on that elbow certainly saved him. But now the Blue Jays are threatening.
And Jose Bautista will be the guy to come to the plate again.
Bautista drilled a double off the center field wall in his first at bat. It's the only run of the ball game. He drove in Rajai Davis, who had walked and stole second. Bautista, just like Encarnacion during BP, was putting on a show.
Yes, he was. Right there, Sultan Lamaki is going out to talk to Lester. I think he got crossed up.
We talk about great pitchers all the time, and I put John Lester in this category. Take a look at the catcher and his reaction. Yeah, he was in between. He didn't know that was going to be a fastball. He was expecting something else.
And the one thing that's kind of unusual, watch his fingers. See how he's painted his fingernails white? That's for a pitcher to pick up the signs a little easier.
You know, my point about Lester being a great pitcher, I think when great pitchers aren't on their game, you've got to take care of them. You've got to put them away. It happened to the Blue Jays in New York. They had Hiroki Kuroda on the ropes.
Right.
And they just couldn't put him away. And he eventually pitched 6 good innings, and the Yankees came back. Got to get to Lester and take advantage of him before he gets things sorted out.
It also happened to CC Sabathia. We had him on the ropes a couple times in New York, and yet he was able to finish 8 innings, hang around. They got him a lead, and he ended up winning the ball game. Right here, a home run, huge game changer.
3-0. All 4 of the bases are loaded for Edwin Encarnacion. Brett Laurie got it started. He ripped a single right past John Lester into center, and then Rajai Davis was hit by a pitch. Bautista walks, and John Lester's got a jam on his hands.
Edwin's just got to look for a pitch in a certain location and spit on everything else isn't there.
Breaking ball missed. Edwin, we mentioned his 5 home runs. He had a streak of 4 consecutive games with home runs on the most recent road trip. Bases loaded, nobody out. And you made a great point. You have to get your pitch. You can't force it now.
That's just it. The game plan doesn't change if you're Edwin. You're still looking for that one pitch. If he's trying to get you to chase out of the zone, you just be patient. You want to be a hero. You want to make a difference. You want to bring the crowd into this game. All those things. The Jays have been struggling offensively, and here's an opportunity for him to do something big. But you can only do that if you're patient at the plate.
Brett Laurie singled. He's at third. Rajay Davis was hit by a pitch, and Jose Bautista walked. 1-0 Jays. Takes a fastball.
That was a good take. He's probably looking middle half in right there. That was outer half. And with 2 balls being thrown, it's not a bad take.
Snap throw to first into right field. Laurie's coming in to score. Davis is right behind him, and there'll be no throw. Saltalamacchia took a shot at picking off Bautista at first, and it leads to 2 Blue Jays runs. Right now, the Blue Jays will take runs however they can get them. Second error of the season charged to Saltalamacchia, and the Blue Jays scored 2 runs.
How about that? The Blue Jays get a break against the team that's playing as good as anybody.
Deep to center. Ellsbury's got a beat on it. Bautista's tagging it second. He'll go to third. Encarnacion drives it deep to center. Take another look at the botched pickoff play.
Right there you see first baseman Napoli kind of sneaking in behind Bautista. But Salty having a tough time throwing it to him. And Rajay kind of knew where the ball was going to go. All he had to do was pick up his third base coach, Louis Rivera, and he was off to the races.
3-0 Blue Jays. The infield is in for Melky Cabrera.
Only 1 out. There's a big RBI sitting there at third base.
Pedroia takes the hot shot to the backhand side, and Cabrera is retired. 2-time Gold Glover at second. Even with the diminished range playing in, he makes a fine play to save a run.
Yeah, he's all out right there. He reacts to the ball, picks it clean. A lot of times with certain runners, guys that can really run, you'll have what they call a contact play. The runner is taken off as soon as you see contact, but there Jose doing the right thing and watching the ball. There's nothing he would have been able to do.
Aaron Sevilla goes after the first pitch, fouls it into the seats. Bautista walked and on the air moved to second and advanced on the long fly ball to center. He's at third now, but 2 outs. Fair ball. Bautista comes in to score. Aaron Sevilla is headed for second. J.P. Aaron Sevilla delivers with 2 outs. 4-0 Jays.
You know, Buck, that's just a sign that the worm might be turning. The Blue Jays just have had a horrendous time trying to score runners when they're in scoring position, and right there JP delivers a big hit, and picking up that 4th run might not seem like that big a deal, but now Brandon Morrow's got all the breathing room he needs, and he can go into attack mode when he's on the mound.
Meiser is Sturis, and Lester has not been sharp. Aaron Seabe's second hit with a runner in scoring position and 2 outs. And it was a big hit off John Lester. Blue Jays have taken advantage of Lester's wildness here in the 3rd. Drops that breaking ball on the outside corner. After the Laurie base hit to start the inning, Davis was hit by a pitch. Bautista walked. And then J.P. Arancibia with 2 outs delivers the RBI double. We will talk to the skipper, John Gibbons, when we come back after this half inning. We do that always on Tuesday nights here at home. Directly from the skipper in the dugout. Meiser Asturias, 2 balls and a strike. Waves at that fastball up and away.
Well, you can see Lester, again, he's pitching a little bit uphill this game. And you can see the pitches there. They're all up in the zone. That primarily, in my opinion, comes from your leg strength. When your legs are strong, you're able to control your body. When your legs start getting a little tired, you compensate by rushing.
Pop up. Pedroia behind second gets there and makes the catch. The inning is over, but the Blue Jays add 3 runs, take advantage of Saltalamakia's 2-run error. Ortiz, Napoli, and Karp will by pitch and enjoy in-game video highlights. The app is available on the iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, Android, and BlackBerry Z10. Season-long subscription packages are available for $19.99. Visit BlueJays.com for more details. At Bat 13 is the official app of Major League Baseball. Well, lots of fireworks here in this ball game already, and Brandon Morrow has created some of his own. He struck out 5 straight Red Sox. 2 to end the first and struck out the side in the second. And his hitters have staked him to a 4-0 lead.
A little different facing David Ortiz with nobody on base and a 4-run lead. But his approach should not change. He pitched him perfectly the first time up.
So Ortiz steps in, leading off the 4th. Blue Jays used the exaggerated shift against Ortiz. And down and away strike with the heater. Yeah, that 500 average, that's not a mistake, folks. He came back smoking. He had the Achilles problem and didn't join the ball club until the middle of April. Hits this ball high and deep to center. Rasmus giving chase at the wall. Home run Ortiz. He continues to swing a red-hot bat. That's his 3rd home run in 9 games.
Well, today, before the game, talking with Pete Walker, we were talking about David Ortiz's current streak and what he's doing right and what he's doing wrong. And he said, Jack, it's amazing to me the difference in how he is able to hit when you put the ball over the plate versus just off the plate. He just doesn't miss it. And you see why right there.
Didn't miss that one. Mike Napoli takes a strike. Ortiz now has 12 RBIs in 9 games. And it's pretty amazing what he's been able to do given the fact he didn't have spring training.
Well, the thing that Brandon has to do right now is not let that affect him. He challenged him, he hit it. You got to almost have the attitude, so what? We're still winning by 3 runs. And he's got to go ahead and attack Mike Napoli and go back to right what he was doing before that.
Well, that's a good breaking ball. 3 straight breaking balls, and that was a snapper at the end.
Hard to lay off that pitch. When the guy's throwing in the mid-90s and he's painting outside, and then he drops the hammer on you, it's hard to lay off that.
The appeal down to first, and Chris Druckmann said no swing. I don't know how he laid off that pitch. Just about as good as the previous pitch, but he was able to check in time.
You have to be pretty strong. As you get started, you know that he's delivering the ball very rapidly.
Strikes him out on an inside heater again. That's where he got him the last time.
The ball tailing back in, and it looks as though Napoli, when you start him away, has got a big hole up and in. Good location twice now.
6 strikeouts now for Morrow. Mike Carp, he was a strikeout victim in the second. First of 3 Morrow strikeouts in the second. High fly ball, and Bautista Erasmus looking up. This ball is going into the seats. Mike Carp with his first home run of the season. 2 home runs in the inning.
Well, another fastball left out over the plate. Carp hits the Rogers sign. Center field, right center field. Looks like it was a slider right there. That, again, the location right in his wheelhouse.
It's a 4-2 game, and Carp getting the start. It's congratulations from the pitching coach, Juan Nieves. All of a sudden, it's a 2-run ball game. The Red Sox, they've got veteran hitters, and they have been patient, scoring runs. They're second in the American League in batting average and second in runs per game.
You see Brandon fly open right there, and the location is a result of that. One thing you can maybe do right here is try to throw a changeup. He hasn't thrown hardly any changeups yet in this game. Just takes a little off his fastball right there and locates it nice. But he hasn't used that weapon at all. He hasn't used the split finger hardly at all. It's been pretty much fastball slider, and they're very similar in speed.
Saltalamacchia takes a walk. And Sevilla will go to the mound and have a chat with Brandon Morrow. So a couple of home runs and a strikeout, now a walk. That'll bring the pitching coach out of the dugout.
Well, one thing that Pete might be reminding him is, and it's after the fact, you usually don't talk about it, but Saltalamacchia has been really struggling offensively, and yet because of the home run to Carp, you pitch to him different. And he's just going to remind him now. Will Middlebrooks, the guy at the plate, has also kind of cooled off since his first go around here, where he had a huge series against the Blue Jays.
The last time the Blue Jays saw Middlebrooks, he was hitting 3 home runs and just missed his 4th, and that was against R.A. Dickey in the final game of that 3-game series the first week of April. But he has cooled off dramatically. Just a 200 average for the season. Still just 1 out. Laurie with a terrific play. Second for one, back to first. What a double play! Oh, my! Brent Laurie gets Brandon Morrow out of a sticky fourth inning with one of the best double plays you'll ever see. This ball is behind him, and he throws a strike to second. Bonifacio takes care of it. End of the inning.
Well, you want to get it out of a jam as a pitcher. You get help from your friends like this. Not only did Laurie do his part, but Emilio turned that double play, and that's something that he's been working on as relatively new at second base. He turned that extremely well. And Middlebrooks looked like he jammed his left ankle a little bit.
Well, I tell you what, Brandon Morrow was on the ropes, and that ball was headed to left field, but Laurie gets the double play to end the inning. I mean, that's a game changer right there.
It really is. That's as good as it gets right there. We see things every day from Brett Laurie that is special.
Kobe Rasmus, high and deep to right. This is long enough. If it's fair, it is foul. Into the seats and foul. Kobe had a single his first time up. Had an infield single up the middle that Pedroia made a play on. Boy, this is where the Red Sox are anxious for Lester to put up a 0 after they score. Rasmus just out in front of that breaking ball. Were you conscious as a pitcher after your team scored to get you back in the game that you wanted to go out there and shut down the opponent?
Absolutely. The first out, the first guy up is so critical. You want to just make sure that you throw quality pitches and you do not walk him. It's a game of momentum. And the one thing you want to do as a pitcher is get the guys right back in the dugout, see if they can make another round through. Let the offense kind of feel good about what they're doing.
Plus, if the Jays can have an extended inning, Brandon Morrow gets a little more time to regroup. 1-2 to Rasmus. Fastball upstairs, and he strikes out. That's 3 strikeouts for John Lester. Well, this is a match of wits right here when you think about Lester and his pitcher's mindset of saying, okay, my hitters are starting to get to Brandon Morrow. The Blue Jay hitters, on the other hand, are saying, we've got to get back to John Lester and take advantage of the way he has started this game. Bonifacio shows bunting. Everybody on the infield was moving. Middlebrooks crashed in from third. Pedroia was charging from second, and Napoli broke toward home.
one of the things Mark DeRosa tried to accomplish by holding a players-only meeting the other day is talk about grinding out some at-bats and having a better mindset, not giving away at-bats. And, you know, this is the time of the game that it really applies. He needs to, Bonifacio and everybody right now, John Lester's pitch count is starting to get up there. It's his 66th pitch already. We're only one out into the 4th inning. So if they can work 30-some pitches and all of a sudden go to the bullpen before they get deep in their pen.
Well, I think it's important, especially in the first game of a series, if you have a chance to get in their bullpen early on.
Exactly.
You can wear down that bullpen in the first game. And then maybe you get the Buckles tomorrow and all of a sudden they're a little thin in their bullpen.
Exactly.
Red Sox have activated Joel Hanrahan, their closer. He was out with a hamstring issue. So he is active and in the bullpen. Bonifacio strikes out. Back-to-back strikeouts in the 4th.
Third baseman, number 13, Brett Lawrie.
Brett Laurie's had an impact in this game, both at the plate and in the field. Had a leadoff single in the 3rd that sparked a 3-run Blue Jays rally. And then that terrific double play, and here he hits a little squibber back to Lester. He knocks it down and recovers in time. John Lester did exactly what the Red Sox wanted. He retired the Blue Jays in order. Now it's time to check in with Jamie Campbell, Greg's son in the Blackberry Broadcast Studio.
IIHS Top Safety Pick. Honda is the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Welcome back to Rogers Center. This is the first of 3 against the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox here for a second time already. Blue Jays won't go to Fenway Park until their next road trip. And Morrow throws a first pitch strike to the shortstop, Stephen Drew.
Well, this is an inning where Brandon Morrow's just got to have what we call a shutdown inning because he gave up the 2 home runs last inning.
You know, oftentimes we talk about pitchers going up against pitchers, but this truly is a matchup of Morrow against Lester.
Well, it is now, especially as Brandon got staked to the lead, and Lester is showing that he's starting to get dialed in, even though it's later for him. The pitch count's getting up there.
Lester retired the Blue Jays in order in the bottom of the 4th after his team scored 2. Good pitch inside and tied up Drew. But you really have to think of the game in half innings right now, and Morrow has got to do that. Just manage the lineup where you're at. Number 9 hitter is crucial, first out of an inning. Hit hard but foul.
Yeah, you want to always pitch that number 9 hitter tough, and he's walked Ellsbury twice as the leadoff man. So facing him with 1 out versus nobody out is a big plus.
Off the end of the bat. Did you ever have a hitter that you stood in there and looked at and said, I don't have any idea how to get him out?
There was a lot of those guys.
There weren't that many, honestly, but I mean, sometimes you just look in there and you can't see any holes where to get him out.
Yeah, you realize that they cover the entire spectrum of the plate and the whole strike zone. And the whole difference, Buck, for me was I'd turn around and look at the scoreboard. And if I had a lead, I had a little bit of comfort knowing that, all right, go ahead, hit me again. But when you're behind or every pitch means something, you know, then when you know you can't walk them, makes it real hard.
Right back up the middle, Stephen Drew got a pitch that he drives into center. Leadoff single for the Red Sox.
When we talk about grinding out at bats, that's exactly what Stephen Drew just did right there. Finally got a pitch out over the plate, even though it was down in the zone, and he shot it right back on the up the middle. You saw where his head was, just right on the baseball, not pulling off at all with his shoulder. Let his hands do the work.
Red Sox have loaded this lineup with a lot of left-handers, and they have done most of the damage against Morrow tonight. The hits are even at 4 apiece. Ellsbury, base hit to right. Drew had to let the ball pass before he took off for second, so he stops at second. But another lefty giving Morrow problems, and that's been the case most of this season.
Yeah, you see the numbers there. Brandon Morrow against left-handed hitters in 2012, they only hit a .188. Now they're hitting .311. So that's something that I'm sure he's aware of. It's been brought to his attention, and something that he's going to have to work on. And it's ironic how it works is when the league hears about stuff like that, they're going to stack the lineup all the time with left-handers.
Yeah, as soon as the numbers start to switch in the hitter's favor, managers will take advantage of it. Daniel Nava has flied out twice so far. Takes a pitch inside.
Aaron Loop is up throwing in the Blue Jay bullpen. Morrow's pitch count at 83. There's Aaron.
Nava fouls it off the catcher's shin guard. Ball and a strike. We are in the top of the 5th.
That's a little slider right there. It acts like a cutter, barely moves at all. He's trying to pitch Nava inside. He's got 2 fly balls where he's got in just enough.
Nava's late on that fastball. And of course, trouble looms on deck and in the hole for Brandon Morrow. Dustin Pedroia is on deck. He has singled in 2 trips, and David Ortiz is in the hole. He's hit a home run. Nobody out. This one's going to reach the seats, out of play.
And they got away with a mistake there, a hanging breaking ball. Sometimes you leave it up too much, you get a lot of fly balls with that.
Morrow has 6 strikeouts in this ball game. He struck out 5 straight at one point.
Again, JP and Brandon having a little trouble getting on the same page. The pace of this game has slowed considerably this inning. Position players are all kind of standing around.
This is hit into the air. Bautista Rasmus. Rasmus calls for it. Tagging at second and stopping is Stephen Drew. Good job by Rasmus to set up and get his momentum in line with third base, and he threw a strike to the cutoff man, so Drew has to hold his ground.
And Drew just bluffing there. And good job by Brandon Morrow getting Daniel Nava for the third straight fly ball to the outfield.
So now the double play ball is something the Blue Jays are really looking for. Justin Pedroia has hit a chopper for an infield hit, and he's also lined out to right. I'd be very concerned about the first pitch of this at bat. Pedroia will hunt fastballs on that first pitch. Now jumps ahead with a heater, 95.
Pedroia is also a tough guy to double up because he does get that quick start out of the batter's box. You almost hope that he can hit a hard, crisp line drive right at somebody in order to turn two.
You saw his numbers with runners in scoring position. Over 350. Goes down and fouls it into the seats.
And he takes a better pitch for strike one, and that time sometimes I think hitters, and I know they'll never agree with me, but I know for a fact that they just think I'm swinging. This one I'm swinging. I can cover the whole plate. And Pedroia had made up his mind.
Looked like he was swinging whatever he threw. So now Morrow has the upper hand. It's 0-2. 1 out. Stays alive. Spoils a good pitch. Well, you can see how he's leaning out over the plate. He's got good coverage. He's hit 2 tough pitches and fouled them off.
97-mile-an-hour fastball. That's Brandon's best fastball tonight, and he painted the outside corner. And yet Pedroia is still able to cover the plate and foul it off.
So what's that tell you as a pitcher?
What it tells me is that he's looking that way and that you've got to move his feet. Throw him a backdoor slider that just misses his kneecap, and it'll change the way he takes those swings.
Base hit up the middle. Drew coming around third. Here's the throw from Rasmus. Arancibia's tag is late. The throw was high to the third base side of home plate. Drew slid inside Arancibia and swiped his hand across home. Pedroia picks up the RBI, his 12th of the season. It's a 1-run game. See the throw on the third base side, and Arancibia, when he goes to reach for the ball, his tag is late as Drew slides to the inside. That's a good slide away from the catcher.
Right there where JP set up, he's forcing the runner to come on an inner side. He's blocking the outside, meaning away from the playing field. He's forcing him to come onto the field to slide. And it takes longer for the throw to get that far.
So David Ortiz has been an RBI machine since he's rejoined the Red Sox. Homered in his last at bat, a deep solo shot to center. Blue Jays can't play in that exaggerated shift now. They have to keep the infield in a more traditional alignment. Ellsbury at second. Morrow misses with the first pitch. Jacoby Ellsbury with the single stands at second. Pedroia an RBI single. He's at first. Big wild swing, and Morrow has evened the count.
There's the split finger right there. He keeps it in a good location. Starts off about knee high. You can see the bottom just fall off, and David Ortiz swings over the top of it. That would be a good pitch to Ortiz simply because he's a low ball hitter. And it starts out down in his whooping zone, and then all of a sudden the bottom falls out.
And right back with it.
Yep.
Wheels are spinning now. Where's he going on the next pitch? 1-2. Red Sox have scored a run. It's a 4-3 Blue Jays lead.
The one thing Morrow can't do right here is throw him anything over the plate. David might just try to be a hero and swing out of the zone. He showed what he can do last inning when you make a mistake out over the plate.
They mentioned Ortiz has been a terrific hitter in this ballpark. His home run in the fourth was his 31st home run here at Rogers Center. He is third on the all-time home run list against the Blue Jays. Manny Ramirez and Alex Rodriguez tied at 54. Came back with a splitter and gets him. Big strikeout for Morrow. His 7th of the game.
Well, David was going to take a little extra hard swing right there. And he throws him actually the slider. Quite honestly, David just swung underneath it.
Two down. Mike Napoli has struck out twice here in Sebia with the defensive signs should the runners take off. I don't think they're going to run in this situation with Napoli at the plate. Napoli has struck out twice, both on inside fastballs. Wow, missed with the fastball. 97. He's had a good heater this inning.
Yeah, Buck, that's his 96th pitch, and would lead you to think that he gets through this inning, he's probably going to be done for the night. But you look at the radar gun, and it doesn't indicate that he's getting tired at all.
Ellsbury's picked off, and they tag him out. Brandon Morrow with the inside move. Bonifacio was right there to take the throw. And that's a huge out for Morrow and the Jays. Bonifacio says, give me the ball. And Morrow with the spin move. And they nail Ellsbury to end the inning. San Francisco Giants. The game starts at 7:07 p.m. Great prizes to be won. There's a first pitch, autographed merchandise, and t-shirts. Follow the Blue Jays on Twitter. Use the handle @BlueJays and the hashtag. Blue Jays tickets, call 416-341-1234. Log on to BlueJays.com or stop by most Rogers Plus locations. Brandon Morrow gets out of the tough situation, and Gibbons gives him a handshake. That generally indicates he is done for the night. Rajay Davis lines one into left.
Well, it'd sure be nice if the Blue Jays can put together a little run here and add to the cushion that they have of only one run right now.
Good swing by Rajay. He's been on base 3 times tonight, scored twice. Just wonder if Morrow was given a handshake by Gibbons for the pickoff, or if he...
It might be.
That might have been the case.
Because right now, Aaron Loop is not throwing. Of course, he's probably ready out there. Only needs a few pitches.
Yeah, he'll go along with Lester this inning. Bautista had a long double off the center field wall in the first to drive in Davis. Lester, a very tentative pickoff throw. Davis stole second in the first inning. Saltalamacchia has yet to catch a base stealer this year. He is now 0 for 12 in that department.
Now, with that in mind, it's up to John Lester to try to hold Rajay, because he's probably going to be running again.
Pitching out, nothing doing.
I always liked it when teams pitched out and we weren't running. I remember some of my teammates, Kirby Puckett being one of them, said, "We don't run on pitch outs."
This just in. Nobody out. Davis at first. Bautista got a pitch to hit. Fouls it back to the screen. John Lester hasn't had his great stuff, but he still held the Blue Jays to 5 hits. His control got him in trouble in the third when he hit Davis and then walked Bautista. Saltalamacchia committed a 2-run error on a pickoff attempt at first. Totally different John Lester the Blue Jays saw back on April 7th. 7 innings, 5 hits, no walks with 6 strikeouts, and he was really dealing that day.
He was also given a 5-run lead before he took the mound.
Davis is off on the pitch. It's popped up to left. Long run for Mike Karp. He gets there. 1 out. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Alex Cobb and the Tampa Bay Rays in Kansas City, and they're facing their former teammate James Shields. And Jamie's right, they know all about James Shields. Shields has pitched well for the Royals so far. Edwin Encarnacion. Lester still keeping an eye on Rajay. With 1 out, would you run Davis in this situation and leave a base open for the Red Sox to walk Encarnacion?
Well, I always like the idea of having runners in scoring position. They would leave it up to Melky. They would probably pitch around Edwin in that situation.
Davis broke towards second and evidently didn't like his break because he took 1 big step towards second and shut it down. He's had plenty of opportunities to get a look at Lester's move. Been on base all 3 times tonight. Working Encarnacion away.
And Edwin doing a good job of not chasing those balls. They're just off the plate.
Three and 0. Fastball, 3-1.
Aaron Luke is still throwing down there, so that's probably going to be the end of it for Brandon Morrow.
Good pitch for Davis to run right here. It's 3-1, 1 out. Not going. High and deep to left field. Upper deck home run for Encarnacion.
Well, Buck, we were both commenting prior to the broadcast about Edwin and what kind of show he put on during batting practice today. And the show continues during the game because that was a bomb.
5th deck, and no doubt. And this is hit a mile high and a long way to that upper deck. Melky Cabrera chases that first pitch. This is some swing.
Yeah, he got it all. It's right in his wheelhouse. And that's got to be a good feeling for a hitter. Terrible feeling for a pitcher.
Cabrera hits it on the ground. Drew has it. 2 down. Encarnacion, his 8th home run, and now he has driven in 18. So he carried the momentum he built up on the road trip right here to Rogers Center, and John Farrell's seen that swing before.
Well, it's just a matter of him when he swings like that. It's just a matter of him saying, "Will you stay fair for me?"
500 level home runs, and that's what it feels like for Encarnacion. The last Blue Jay to hit a 5th deck home run, Brendan Wells, in 2004 hit a home run in the 5th deck off of Rodrigo Lopez. Shelley Duncan was the last player to hit one in the 5th deck. That came off Jojo Reyes back in 2011. Not many people go up in the 5th deck. Sixteenth time there's been a 5th deck home run here at Rogers Center.
I wonder if any have gone up in that deck with the roof open.
That's a good call.
And the reason I ask that is because in order to hit it that far, you're going to get it above the stadium almost. You know, it's going to get up where the wind has some effect on it, if there is any wind at all.
Outside. John Lester has just been a tick off tonight. Aaron Sevian bounces it towards second. The inning is over, but the Blue Jays get a couple of big insurance runs. They have a 6-3 lead. Now we're headed to the top of the 6th. Here comes the Home Hardware Cleanup Crew, brought to you by Natura. Home Hardware's exclusive line of safe, environmentally friendly cleaning products. received a free seat upgrade tonight, courtesy of TD. Great spot there, and across the field over in the Jays Care Clubhouse, it's Kaluta School in attendance tonight in the Jays Care Clubhouse. Welcome, and we've been treated to quite a show here early on. Blue Jays are up 6-3, and they'll go to the bullpen and turn things over to Aaron Loop.
Well, there you see the numbers for Aaron Loop. And he'll be asked to take care of the middle of the order. Mike Napoli, Mike Karp, and Jared Saltalamacchia.
So Morrow goes 5 innings, and he's in line for the win. Blue Jays have a 3-run lead. Luke, on the road trip, worked in 3 ball games, a total of 3 1/3, and he throws strike 1 to Napoli. Napoli was at the plate when Brandon Morrow caught Jacoby Ellsbury trying to steal. And Ellsbury was caught stealing as he broke toward third when Morrow spun and threw to second for the out. Breaking ball, 1-2.
Aaron was in one of the games in the first series here at Rogers Center against Boston. Pitched 1 inning, struck out 2 hitters.
Trying to get that backdoor breaking ball and bounced it in the dirt. The Blue Jays have handled Napoli very well when they pitched him inside. Morrow struck him out twice on inside heaters. You can see Johnny Gomes is standing on deck. That's the spot of the left fielder, Mike Karp, who started the game and homered. Another pitch inside, another strikeout. 1 down here in the 6th. Let's go back to take a look at Edwin Encarnacion's majestic home run. Up near that exit in the 5th deck, 4 rows deep into that 5th deck. 16th home run hit into the 500 level here at Rogers Center. A majestic home run, to be sure. And a little breathing room for the Blue Jays.
Absolutely.
Something they haven't had a lot of.
Scoring home run. Finally got a home run with a guy on base.
Johnny Gomes comes off the bench to bat for the left fielder Mike Karp. Karp homered against Brandon Morrow. He was 1 for 2 and hit a long home run in the 4th.
Yeah, how about that for luck and numbers? Coach, I just hit a home run and you're going to take me out?
I'm hot. Johnny Gomes is been brought in here to be the left-handed platoon guy in left field, at least for the time being. Gomes has had a bit of a rough start to his Red Sox career.
He's been instrumental in keeping the clubhouse loose, from the words that I'm hearing down on the field.
Well, he's had an impact on just about every team he's played on. Oakland, of course, last year he was part of that team that won the division in the West. But they hoped he'd swing the bat a little more consistently.
Yeah. Well, he might be an early game hitter, because he was putting on quite a show too in BP today.
Another pitch out over the plate. You can see these Red Sox hitters, when they are able to extend their arms, they can get to those pitches pretty effectively. But when they have had to deal with the inside part of the plate, it's not the same swing.
It never is. And most power hitters are always, and have always been, guys that like to extend their arms.
There's a good shot inside, but off the plate. 2-2. Karp and David Ross talking about Aaron Loop. Johnny Gomes hits it high and deep. Rasmus giving chase. Johnny Gomes, home run. Johnny Gomes comes off the bench and goes deep. That's the first home run Aaron Loop has allowed. So Gomes, the pinch hit home run, has gotten the run back. That's the first home run Aaron Loop has given up in his major league career. This in his 45th game.
Well, I guess if you're going to give one up, you want to make sure it was a good one.
Comes right back and throws a strike.
The one thing about Aaron Loop, though, is he doesn't really get distracted very easily. Never gets too ruffled out there. Very good poise for a young pitcher.
Saltalamacchia flips around and hits as a right-handed batter. Switch hitting catcher. He has struck out and walked. For Johnny Gomes, that's his first home run of the season. Just his second RBI. But a little spark, and that's exactly what he was brought in to do, give the Red Sox a little spark here and there.
One thing we can honestly say about the Red Sox right now is they are playing here the last game in April, going for a franchise record 19th win. Is the good teams, Buck, never throw in the towel till that last out is made, and you can see it here tonight. They're still grinding away. They're still in this ballgame.
Bouncing ball, long run for Laurie. He's got time with Saltalamacchia and makes the play. Boy, that was a good decision by Laurie. We saw him early in the game on the similar ball hit off the bat of Pedroia, try to barehand it. This time he knows he's got the catcher hitting.
And it's a tough play to try to barehand because of where it was. It was going to have to be way down on the grass, so he uses his glove and comes up, plants his foot. Edwin doing a nice job on the other end, stretching out there and making a good play.
Good play on both ends of that last play. Laurie started a terrific double play in the fourth, snaring a hot shot to his glove side. Encarnacion's been good at first all year long.
He really has.
Will Middlebrooks is the guy that hit that hot shot. Looked like a base hit in the fourth inning. But Laurie dove to his left and started the 5-4-3 double play. One of the few changeups Loops thrown.
Well, the arm speed, everything's the same. The ball just kind of dies right at the plate. And again, it's one of those situations where you swear Will Middlebrooks had made up his mind he was going to swing.
Way outside. Yeah, hitters will get like that, and I'm sure you can see it from the mound.
Well, and what you want to do is you want to get it close enough to the strike zone that they don't see it too well, because when you waste a pitch 2 feet off the plate or way up in the zone, it's just too easy to lay off of it.
See, all three of those pitches are so far outside he doesn't even have to offer at them.
Exactly, but you put it an inch or so off the strike zone, off the corner or down in the strike zone, they're more willing to take a good hack at it.
Left field. Cabrera over to his right, makes the catch. Aaron Luke gives up a pinch hit home run to Johnny Gomes, but the Blue Jays have a 2-run lead. It'll be Asturias Blue Jays in their 1993 World Series title. The magazine is on newsstands now, so pick it up and look back at that great year in 1993. Johnny Gomes with the pinch hit home run takes over defensively. Left field has been a good spot for the Red Sox tonight. Carp homered, and now Gomes has homered in that same spot in the batting order. Meiser is Storis. 0 for 2 so far. Storis making his third start at shortstop tonight with Lester on the mound. Fly ball into shallow right. Nava makes the catch. 1 out. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Pitch fielders starting to heat up. He and Cabrera both swinging hot bats right now. And that Tiger team has kind of sputtered a little bit. They had a rough trip out west. Midfielder with a couple more hits tonight, batting .304. He's got 27 RBIs in the month of April.
He'll take that. So will the Tigers.
Cabrera's got 28. That's a pretty wicked 3-4 punch.
You talk about Pedroia and Ortiz here in this lineup. Those two guys are a headache for most pitchers today.
Colby Rasmus as an infield single. We mentioned John Lester certainly wasn't as sharp as we saw him earlier in the season, but here he is pitching deep into the ballgame. He's in the 6th. Pitch count is still under 90. It'll be interesting to see how long they go with him. Coming into this game tonight, when Lester or Clay Buchholz started, the Red Sox record is 10-0. Lester is 4-0 and Buchholz is 5-0, but the team is 10-0 when they start. Rasmus out in front of that pitch and fouls it into the seats.
Well, you think about it, the Blue Jays have 9 wins, so those two guys have more wins, or as many wins, just the two of them, and then when they both pitch, they have one more win.
And that's why they're guaranteed to have the best record in April in the big leagues. Lester pumps that fastball by Rasmus. 2 down.
The 2013 Honda CR-V, an IIHS top safety pick. Honda is the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
David Ortiz and the former Blue Jays third base coach Brian Butterfield having a chat on the bench, and you can bet Ortiz has picked the brain of Butterfield about some of the Blue Jays pitchers.
Well, Brian Butterfield, one of the better minds in baseball, and he really keeps an eye on everything. Of course, David Ortiz, we talk about what a great hitter he is, but it's because he's a smart hitter. And they're talking about pitching, and David's probably given him a thesis on his philosophy.
You can never stop learning in this game, that's for sure. And if someone has information, Ortiz is going to seek it out. Bonifacio has struck out twice tonight, but he's made a couple of fine defensive plays in the field. Lays off that cutter down and in. Lester has 5 strikeouts, and he's gotten the bottom of the order 4 of those times. Rasmus a couple and Bonifacio twice. Napoli almost loses his footing, and Bonifacio is out by a half a step. John Lester retires the Blue Jays in order in the 6th. We'll go to the 7th. Blue Jays have a 6-4 lead over Boston. Napoli is able to keep his balance and feed Lester just ahead of Bonifacio. He finishes the game 5 innings, 7 strikeouts overall, 6 hits, 3 runs, and he gave up a couple home runs in the 4th. David Ortiz with the leadoff shot. Mike Carp hit a solo home run in the same inning, and Blue Jays are in position to win it. Meister Asturias goes from shortstop to second base. Munenori Kawasaki comes off the bench to take over defensively at short. Emilio Bonifacio is out of the ballgame. So Kawasaki is in the 9th spot in the Blue Jays batting order. Bonifacio finishes up 0 for 3, but had a couple of good defensive plays.
Right there, Stephen Drew getting tied up on a fastball inside. It's a tough pitch coming from Aaron Loop. He not only throws across his body, but able to locate that pitch. It's a tough one for a left-hander to make contact with.
Inside, and all he can do is pull it foul.
A little bit lower where he can drop the bat head. That's about all you're ever going to do with that pitch, but he gets it up another inch or so and it's a different story. Then you break a bat if he makes contact at all.
Breaking ball, swing and a miss. Drew is down on strike. Second strikeout for Aaron Loop. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Boy, the Red Sox have done a number lately. Ryan Rayburn has 3 more hits tonight. Drew Stubbs is 3 for 4. Roy Halladay started that game for the Phillies. Doc went 3 2/3, is charged with 8 earned runs on 9 hits. Been a rough start for him this season. Top of the order, Jacoby Ellsbury has had another productive night. He's been on base all 3 times. But the good thing for the Jays, he hasn't scored yet. He was caught stealing to end the 5th. Red Sox were threatening. It was 1st and 2nd with Mike Napoli at the plate, and Brandon Morrow used the spin move, and they caught Ellsbury at 2nd.
Steve Delabar up and throwing now in the Blue Jays bullpen. Got one more left-hander coming up, and then Dustin Pedroia. So Daniel Neva, is a switch hitter.
Kawasaki can't make the play. Ellsbury fights it off into left field. So Ellsbury, a perfect night. Couple of walks, couple of singles. Boy, he hung tough against the lefty and didn't hit it hard, but hit it in a good spot.
Well, it's not how hard you hit him, it's where you hit him.
Kawasaki just into the game defensively. Now Nava will turn around and bat as a right-handed bat against the lefty Luke. Not much different in the batting average. 316 as a lefty, 286 as a righty. Hits the ball on the ground. Kawasaki to his tours off his glove. Ellsbury's up. He's headed for third. That's a tailor-made double play. And again, the defense just not very sharp. Chance to get out of that inning. They got exactly what they were looking for, the ground ball. And now Gibbons very frustrated as he comes out of the dugout. He's got to make a pitching change with Pedroia, the scheduled batter. Kawasaki had a little trouble digging the ball out of his glove, and that messed up the timing. Luke got the pitch he wanted. He got the ground ball. The double play should have got him out of the inning. But the defense once again allows the Red Sox an extra out. Steve Delabar into the ball game. And we go back and look at that last play. This ground ball should have ended the inning, Jack.
You can see the ball's hit crisply. If there is such a thing as a routine ground ball double play, but right there Kawasaki bobbled it a little bit, had a tough time getting it out of his hand, and then he kind of forces the ball, and not much of a chance Meiser had there. So we've got two base runners when we should be in the dugout.
It's been a real problem, and of course without Jose Reyes, shortstop has been a concern, as has second base. Defense up the middle has plagued the Blue Jays all season long. One out. Number 3 hitter Dustin Pedroia. Boy, and this is exactly the kind of opportunities the Red Sox love to take advantage of. The number 2 hitter Daniel Nava hit what looked to be an inning-ending double play, and the Blue Jays couldn't get it done. Pedroia over the top, fouls it off his foot. And Big Papi is lurking on deck.
Well, it's never going to be easy, but right now Steve Delabar's got to concentrate on Pedroia. Make good pitches right here and try to roll one right back to Munenori, see if he can recover from it.
John Lester gets the handshake from John Farrell, the manager. And a little congratulations for battling. He didn't have his great stuff tonight, but he's kept his team in the ball game.
And now Delabar falls behind Pedroia, 3 balls and 1 strike. So it's the hitter's pitch right here.
Three and one out. Pedroia fouls it back. I got to tell you, as a pitching staff, you make pitches and plays aren't made behind you. You become defensive.
You do, and you start pitching not to attack the strike zone and not to get the ground balls you expect, but you start pitching hoping that they'll hit the ball in the air or pop up or strike out.
Now you try to miss bats, and that's a tough way to pitch.
Yep.
3-2 to Pedroia. Ball forward. Bases are loaded. So the Red Sox are threatening here in the 7th. And now David Ortiz will step in the batter's box. He has homered tonight. He's also struck out twice. Aaron Loop deserved a better fate. 1 out.
Now John Gibbons understands that. There's nothing they can do now except keep it going. They're blocked there by JP. Keep the ball in front of him.
Ortiz, mentioned his great start in his return, has driven in 12 runs in 9 games, coming back from an Achilles injury.
And that's one right in his wheelhouse right there.
Little extra velocity at 96. I think that's the best way to attack Ortiz. Is stay hard, make him
as you can.
commit.
You want to come inside though. You don't want to leave it out there, and you don't want to leave it down there. Run it up a little bit, run it in a little bit.
Delabar pitched well on the road trip. Appeared in 3 games, allowed just 1 hit and 4 total innings.
I don't understand this right here. JP just was out to talk to him, and they're not on the same page. How can that happen?
Going to go through another set of signs.
And he got crossed up there. So they're going to have another little discussion.
Yeah, I mean, this is unacceptable. It's a month into the season, and they're still having problems on their signs. Aaron Sebia sets up outside. And he was expecting a breaking ball.
And he almost got hit right directly on the inner part of the wrist.
So now Delabar in deep against Ortiz. The bases are loaded. Blue Jays clinging to a 2-run lead. Three and one.
Well, there's no room to walk people. You're going to have to pitch to him.
Ball is driven, and that's going to go up the wall. 1 run is in. Here comes Nava. Right behind him, Pedroia is being waved home, and David Ortiz delivers. A 3-run double to the wall in right center. And the Red Sox have taken the lead. Ortiz with 4 RBIs tonight.
Well, you fall behind David Ortiz and you throw the ball right in his whooping house. And that's what he does with it right there. He's one of the game's best at RBIs, all the production numbers. This is all because of a ball that was hit right at somebody in a situation where you're supposed to be in the dugout.
Double play ball. He couldn't turn 2. Didn't even get an out. It was an error. And now Mike Napoli will bat with Ortiz at second. 7-6 Red Sox. They just keep grinding away. Napoli went too far, according to Bruce Dreckman. Ball and a strike, 1 out. Red Sox have scored 3 here in the top of the 7th. Outside. Blue Jays had a 4-0 lead at one point. Then they led 6-3. Now they find themselves behind 7-6. Two and two.
Well, Napoli has struck out 3 times. All 3 balls were fastballs, inner half. Let's see if Delabar has been paying attention.
They got the fastball inside, but Aaron Seavey was setting up outside.
Apparently JP is trying to trick him. You don't need to trick people when they expose a hole until they show you that they've adjusted to it.
Brett Cecil starts to loosen up. Brandon Morrow started, and he will take a no decision.
Well, the Red Sox have shown that they are not going to throw in the towel. It'll be interesting to see how the Blue Jays respond.
It'll be a real test for the Blue Jays. First game of the series. Napoli strikes out. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. Mike Napoli has struck out 4 times tonight. So Johnny Gomes, who came into the ballgame as a pinch hitter in the 6th and homered off Aaron Luke, will get a at bat against the right-hander. Gomes' home run was his first of the season. Been a real struggle for him early on. But he had a big home run tonight. Ball on the strike.
You can almost sense that Steve Belivar right now is pitching to avoid contact instead of challenging hitters. Of course, Gomes did homer his last time up, and you look up and down the lineup and they've had great success. But you still have to be able to throw strikes and get ahead, work ahead.
And he's got great stuff.
95-mile-an-hour fastball. He's got a good split finger. He's got a very good slider. He's got everything you want in a pitcher. He just falls behind too often.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Top of the 7th inning. Red Sox have scored 3. Gomes pops it into right. This should end the inning. Bautista over near the line, and the inning is over. But David Ortiz, in his first trip to Rogers Center this year, has done a job on the Blue Jays. He has homered and cleared the bases with a double. He's driven in 4. The Red Sox have a 7-6 lead. He snares that hot shot off the bat of Will Middlebrooks and turns it into a double play. And then Jared Saltalamacchia makes a bid for an infield base hit, and Laurie throws him out. He's shown terrific hands, great range, and explosive ability at third. And he will bat second this inning, and he will face Junichi Tazawa, making his 13th appearance of the season. Tazawa really has thrown the ball well. He's healthy again. He's got that great command of the strike zone. 12 strikeouts, just 1 walk, and he's averaged 9.26 strikeouts per 9 innings.
Well, that's always a good combination, coming in throwing strikes. One of the big strengths right now of Boston's overall success is their bullpen. They've done a great job.
And they love having Big Papi back. He is playing in his 9th game. He's driven in 4 runs tonight. He has 15 RBIs in 9 games, and that's all without having any spring training. He was injured, coming back from that injury, and Brett Laurie will start things off against Tazawa. Tazawa, not only does he have great stuff, but he's got an unusual hesitation in his delivery that can really create problems for the hitters. Comes right at Laurie with a good fastball. Kind of throws the glove at the hitter, almost like Jim Perry of the Twins years ago, and it's almost like you expect the ball, but it's a tick late.
There's a little pause there.
Good breaking ball.
Yeah, that's a real crisp breaking ball. Good 12-6 rotation.
Fly ball to center. One down. But now you really have your work cut out for you. Boston's bullpen is very effective. They have Tazawa, Uehara, Andrew Bailey, and now they've got their closer back, Joel Hanrahan.
Yeah, there's some very good arms in that bullpen.
So Adam Lind comes off the bench. He's loosening up. He'll bat for Rajay Davis. Rajay had a heck of a game. He walked, he was hit by a pitch, he singled, and he scored 3 runs and had a stolen base. Good job by Davis tonight. Doing exactly what Gibbons had hoped for when he put him into that 2 spot.
Yeah, and what's his reward? Hey, you're going to sit next to me. We're going to let Adam pinch hit because we have a right-hander on the hill.
So Lind will come off the bench as the pinch hitter. The Red Sox had a pinch hit home run in the 6th. Johnny Gomes hit for Mike Karp and hit his first home run of the season. Tazawa's got a good arm. He is very good at controlling the strike zone, but he also has a little extra giddy up on his fastball.
And when you throw in the little deception and hesitation there, it makes it tough on the hitters. Meanwhile, Darren Oliver is up and throwing now in the Blue Jays pen, so John Gibbons might be throwing a different look again.
That slow breaking ball missed upstairs. Down and away. Lind has really done a good job of getting a better idea at the plate. He had a streak of 5 straight walks. He had a long run of getting on base. (3-1). Full count.
We talked about the testing times for the Blue Jays. They're not done. They're only down by a run. They just have to grind out some at-bats, try to get a runner in scoring position. They've done a good job so far.
Lind strikes out. High fastball got him. Rogers customers can watch every Blue Jays game this season on Sportsnet live on your smartphone. Visit RogersAnyPlaceTV.com/sports to get started. Well, the Blue Jays are only down by a run at 7-6, and you got the home run hitters coming to the plate. Jose Bautista drove in the first run of the ball game with a double off the wall in center. He's also walked and scored. Home run cut, and he fouls it back. Blue Jays haven't seen a lot of Tazawa. He missed the entire 2010 season with Tommy John surgery, but by looking at his pitches tonight, I'd say he's 100% recovered.
Yeah, and it's free and easy. There's no awkwardness at all in his delivery.
Breaking ball. And the Red Sox have revamped their bullpen, of course, getting Tazawa back healthy and effective again was a big part of that. Picked up Uehara in the offseason. He's a strike-throwing machine, hand-to-hand in the trade. Bailey came from Oakland, so they've got a lot of good arms down in that bullpen. Ball on a strike to Bautista.
The one thing that is a little challenging for John Farrell is the fact that he's only got the one left-hander, and that's Andrew Miller down there. The rest of them are all right-handers.
But they have right-handers that can handle lefty pitching. Look at Tazawa. He got that sign from Saltalamacchia and then appeared to have second thoughts. He nodded and said, no, maybe not.
quite honestly, pitchers have that right. They're the ones that are going to be tagged with the hit or the loss or all the ugly things that happen as a result of a poor pitch. So they have the right to shake and decide what it is that they'd like to throw.
Breaking ball, it's a full count. Edwin Encarnacion is on deck. Edwin hit a towering home run to the 5th deck, a 2-run shot back in the 5th, his last time up. Blue Jays fans trying to rally the troops here at Rogers Center. Outside, Bautista walks. The drive of the game brought to you by the 2013 Honda CR-V, an IIHS top safety pick. Honda's official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays. Back in the 5th inning with a man aboard, Edwin Encarnacion hits a no-doubter to the 5th deck. A 16th home run hit to the 500 level by Edwin Encarnacion, his 2-run home run, his 8th of the season. A monster shot to the 5th deck. Bautista at first. Encarnacion lays off. Average creeping up. 18 RBIs now for Encarnacion. That's not one you want to swing at.
And I think that's what's making a difference for Edwin, is he's looking for a pitch, especially with less than 2 strikes, where he can handle it. And if he's not getting it, in the last few ball games at least, he's showing that he's willing to take the pitch. Let's talk about him heating up. He's definitely heading in the right direction.
Down and away. Well, you can see how he takes pitches now, how well he's seeing the ball out of the pitcher's hand. He doesn't move if...
And the word is out. I mean, everybody's pitching him away.
Looking up, goodbye home run.
Well, at least for Edwin. And a good at-bat by Jose right there. The Blue Jays showing a little sign that they are not going to roll over. Right there, Kazawa throws a pretty good located fastball. Outer half. But when you stay away, guess what's going to happen? Hitters start looking away, and they can still handle it. The good ones can still handle it. Edwin crushed that ball, too.
Edwin has just tied Chris Davis for the American League lead in home runs with his 9th. He had a 2-homer game in Yankee Stadium on Friday. 2 more tonight. Way out right where I wanted it. Melky Cabrera fouls it back. 10th career multi-home run game for Double E. Bautista did his job. He got on base ahead of Encarnacion. And John Farrell has seen that picture before. This is a test for the Blue Jays, no question about it.
This is one of their better offensive games here tonight. And for a while, Brandon Morrow seemed like he was going to be unhittable. And yet, The real hiccup in this ball game has been an error.
But Edwin Encarnacion, his hot bat, his second home run of the night to deep center field. He's driven home 4. And the Blue Jays have regained the Rogers Center starting Friday night. It's a 7:07 start. Friday, Saturday is a day game, 1:07 start. Another day game on Sunday. That'll wrap up the 6-game homestand. The Seattle Mariners are back in town. Michael Saunders, the Canadian, has just been activated by Seattle. He will be here for the 3-game series. For Blue Jays tickets, call Blue Jays directly at 416-341-1234. Log on to BlueJays.com or stop by most Rogers Plus locations. Darren Oliver into the game. He throws a breaking pitch that just missed. Jared Saltalamacchia, the batter for Boston.
And we're going to see Darren Oliver's numbers here. There they are.
Oliver is the third reliever to work here tonight. Aaron Loop, Steve Delabar, and now the veteran Darren Oliver appearing in his 12th game.
He's been pretty steady. He's usually a 1-inning guy or less situation type pitcher. But he's a veteran. He usually comes in throwing strikes, and that's exactly what Pete Walker and manager John Gibbons need out of him right now. Try to get to the 9th inning and turn it over to Casey Janssen with a lead.
Yeah, they've got a guy down there in that bullpen that's chomping at the bit.
Oh boy.
Saltalamacchia chops it foul. Casey Janssen pitched just one time on the recent road trip and he picked up a save, but he's a guy that's anxious to get back out there and contribute.
And this whole rough start for the Blue Jays is really eating away at him, mainly because he's probably the only bright spot consistently, and he just wants to be a part of it. He wants to touch the baseball.
Saltalamacchia out in front of that Oliver breaking ball. Yeah, you're right. Casey Janssen, he dies a little bit with each Blue Jays loss, that's for sure. And all he's thinking right now is just give me the ball in the 9th.
And that's exactly where he's at right now, doing what he can to get loose, preparing himself for the inning that lies ahead.
Oliver took a shot upstairs and missed.
Well, Darren's got the bottom part of the lineup. 7, 8, 9 hitters.
Missed inside.
Yeah.
He walks Saltalamacchia to start the 8th. Tried to get that breaking ball over and missed on the outer edge.
Came out of his hand a little late.
Now the NHL playoffs are starting tonight. The Leafs will start tomorrow night. Montreal, of course, there was a chance those two teams would meet up, but Boston lost to Ottawa on the final day, so the Maple Leafs will take on the Bruins tomorrow night in Boston. Will Middlebrooks takes a strike. He's had a rough night at the plate. He's 0 for 3.
Well, it's not the same Will Middlebrooks that we saw in that first series, that's for sure. Right now, Darren Oliver hopes he continues that.
Well, he gets jammed with that inside pitch. Middlebrooks was 6 for 13 against the Blue Jays in the first series. He had 2 doubles and 4 home runs in that series.
Almost had 4 in one game.
The appeal to first is denied by Bruce Druckmann. Well, the Blue Jays, I'd love to have a double play ball, but they got a double play ball back in the 7th, and Kawasaki booted it. He threw the ball away at second for the air, and that led to a 3-run inning. And that's what you think about with a pitcher, is just trying to make perfect pitches, because the defense hasn't been as good as you would naturally think.
Well, unfortunately, the pitchers have just got to continue to get ahead and throw strikeouts.
Don't need any defense for that. Good pitch by Oliver. That's the first out of the inning after the leadoff walk. He strikes out Middlebrooks, and now Stephen Drew will step in the box. This is a perfect fastball. That was the previous pitch. It was in the dirt. He came back and threw a fastball for strike 3. So 1 out.
Salty's probably not running at first base, but Darren's got to keep him honest. Make sure that he reminds him that he still sees him over there.
Stephen Drew struck out against Aaron Loop to end the 7th. Actually, he struck out to start the 7th. Loop into the ball game, and then Ellsbury had a single, and then the costly error on a ball hit by Daniel Nava. Oliver missed away, and you can see him talking to himself. Left-handers have been a problem for Darren Oliver this season. He just hasn't had that real good command of that down and away strike.
You know, one of the things you sometimes try to do is make sure you leave it away, not over the plate.
Well, you can see John Gibbons talking with DeMarlo Hale on the bench about the options. Pete Walker, the pitching coach, leaning in and looking at the Red Sox lineup, what they have left. David Ross, Pedro Siriaco, and the switch hitter Victorino on the bench. And they would like not to have to go to Casey Jansen. There's Victorino and Ross. At this point, there are not many spots that the Red Sox might pinch hit to until you get down to Johnny Gomes again in the 6th spot. Siriaco may be used as a pinch runner. 3-2, 1 out. On the ground. Kawasaki goes to second. They'll get 1, and that's it. So Drew taps into the fielder's choice.
Right here, Munenori making sure of an out and trying to get the advanced runner. That would be a guy in scoring position. Good play right there to keep the runner now to Stephen Drew at first base.
So Oliver will work to Ellsbury, and Ellsbury's had a good night. 2 walks and then a pair of singles. He scored his last time up in the 7th. Mention Oliver's numbers against lefty hitters before they drew at bat. They were 10 for 23, a .435 average, and that's not like Oliver. That's the pitch that has been missing for Oliver against lefties.
And that's a pretty hard pitch for any hitter. You locate that ball perfectly knee high on the outside part of the plate. But what makes that great is the fact that you got to show him the inside fastball once in a while.
Drew doesn't have a stolen base this year. Arnie Baylor, the first base coach,
Again, that breaking ball right there where Darren Oliver is just pulling through it a little bit too much. He's just overly cautious not to leave it on the plate.
Ellsbury's only hit .171 against lefty pitching. Ball in the dirt, and Aaron Sevilla jumps on it. Blue Jays lead at 8-7. Breaking ball foul back. Might have got away with one there.
Yeah, and that's what he's worried about. That's why he's pulling so many breaking balls way away. It's because he doesn't want to leave that one right over the heart. He doesn't have the 12-6 type breaking ball. It's more of a 3 or 9-3 type. Pretty a flat slider.
Oliver makes a nice grab on the comebacker, and the inning is over. He protects the 1-run lead. He gets out of it in the 8th. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th. There in Sevilla is Sturis Rasmus. Now it's time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg. of who they thought the Blue Jays player of the game would be. The video game version picked Emilio Bonifacio to have a big game. Well, they had him 4 for 7. He finished up 0 for 3 with a ground out and a pair of strikeouts. And the predictor is brought to you by MLB 13 The Show, only on PS3 and Vita. Available in stores now. New pitcher for Boston is Joel Hanrahan, fresh off the disabled list. He made 2 relief appearances in rehab down in AAA Pawtucket on the 26th and 28th. And he is now into this game. He has had a hamstring problem. He was able to rehab it a bit. He was acquired from the Pittsburgh Pirates in the offseason to shore up the bullpen, and as we mentioned, they have really done a great job of rebuilding their bullpen. So it'll be Aaron Sevier to start things off, then Meiser Asturias. Aaron Sevier goes after the first pitch.
Hanrahan can really get it up there. He can touch close to 100 miles an hour at times. So the Blue Jays are going to have to get it started pretty quick.
Aaron Sevier single into center. Leadoff base hit for the Jays here in the 8th. JP's 2 for 4. He drove in a run with a double in the 3rd.
See a fastball that's down in the zone, but it leaves too much of the plate. Kind of tails back in across the heart of the plate. JP just goes down and shoots it out into left center.
Meiser Asturias shows bunt early. Middlebrooks in at 3rd, and it's beauty. Running up the first baseline, Hanrahan gets it, and Asturias does a good job. Moves Aaron Sevier into scoring position with the sacrifice.
Yeah, it's just good to see fundamental baseball right there. Meiser getting the ball down. Not always easy to hit or bunt a fastball that's going to be in the high 90s, but he lays down a perfect one and gets congratulations from all his teammates.
Big insurance run at second base. Blue Jays lead at 8-7.
No question about it. You look at the Red Sox batting order. You got Nava, Pedroia, and Ortiz coming back in the 9th against Casey Jansen, who's warming in the pen right now.
And you can bet that John Gibbons and DeMarlo Hale, his bench coach, have been going over that fact. And tough part of that order is coming up in the top of the 9th.
Extra run gives everybody a little bit more breathing room.
Casey Jansen standing by in the Blue Jays bullpen. He's just going to go along with Hanrahan and watch this inning unfold. He appears to be ready, just standing by. Hanrahan's got a big arm, as you mentioned, 97 with the heater.
Well, that's Colby's pitch right there. Fastball down. That's where he likes it. But he's taking a good look right there. Trying to work the count a little bit.
Check swing, tap foul. Well, this has been a seesaw battle all night, and Edwin Encarnacion's had a big night. A pair of 2-run home runs, and he erased a 1-run deficit in the 7th. He had a 2-homer game Friday night in New York and a 2-homer game tonight. He has tied Chris Davis for the American League lead in home runs.
Tough pitch right there. Tough to lay off it. Good take for Colby.
Kawasaki came into the game defensively in the 7th. He is in the number 9 spot in the batting order. Full count, 1 out. Ground ball. Pedroia can't knock it down. Aaron Sevier is around 3rd. He'll come in to score, and Rasmus picks up a big insurance run.
Well, that was just a grind out at bat. That's exactly what Colby needed to do, and good for Colby, finally picking up a big RBI. You just can't say enough what that run means in this kind of ball game right here. You mentioned, Buck, what a seesaw battle it's been, and you never feel comfortable even with 2 runs with the heart of their lineup coming up next, but that sure helped.
Just a little breathing room. Rasmus, his second hit of the night. Kawasaki, his first at bat. This has been a gut check for the Blue Jays.
You know, it can be a very positive building type of game, though, if they could figure out a way to hold it here and end up with a W.
Kawasaki shows bunt, pulls the bat back. 1 out. The starters are long gone. Morrow and John Lester. Casey Jansen standing ready in the Blue Jays bullpen. There goes Rasmus, and Kawasaki fouls off the hit and run.
Yeah, John Lester, he pitched himself into what seemed like a very rough early going, where the Blue Jays scored 4 runs in the first 3 innings. And yet he was able to position himself to go long enough to have a lead when he came out. Well, actually didn't have the lead, but the team got him a lead. He would have been the pitcher of record had it not been for Edwin in his second home run.
There goes Rasmus again. The hit and run is on. Pedroia is able to make a play on it and get Kawasaki at first. 2 outs, 9-7 Blue Jays lead. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Lyle Overbay, boy, he's done a good job. And how about Hiroki Kuroda? 7 innings of 4 hit shutout ball tonight. Houston jumped all over Andy Pettitte last night. Won the game 9-1, but it's a different story tonight. Philip Umber continues to struggle for the Astros. Brett Laurie with Rasmus at second. Ball on a strike.
Well, you kind of wonder why John Farrell would bring in his closer in a game like this tonight, but it's mainly because he needs him to get back out on the mound.
Yeah, he needed to work. He was just activated off the disabled list, so tight ball game, and you need to get the heart going again, get that adrenaline pumping.
Quite honestly, Hanrahan showing a little rustiness in his location. I guess that's to be expected.
Breaking ball upstairs. Hanrahan's 31 years old. He has 6 years under his belt with the Nationals and the Pirates. Lind entered the ball game as a pinch hitter for Rajay Davis in the 7th. Laurie, long drive to center field. Ellsbury has a beat on it, just short of the warning track, and that'll end the inning. So the Blue Jays will go to the 9th. Rasmus with an insurance RBI. Casey Jansen finally gets an opportunity to pick up another save. He'll come in to work to the heart of the order. Edwin Encarnacion, another 2-homer night. He's driven in 4 runs with a pair of 2-run home runs. He now has 9 home runs for the season, and he's looking to Casey Janssen to close it out. A perfect 6 for 6 in save opportunities. It'll be 2, 3, and 4 for the Red Sox here in the ninth. Daniel Nava has gone 0 for 4, but he scored a run in the 7th when he reached on the air. It into the fielder's choice, and Kawasaki committed a throwing error at second. Jansen's remarkable in his ability to command the strike zone with not much work.
No, he can really hit his lanes both sides of the plate, and he keeps the ball down in the strike zone most of the time. Will run it up when he's trying to have a guy climb the ladder.
Laurie at third, knocks it down, stays with it, and uses that strong arm for the first out of the night. He's had a good night in the field.
Well, that's a tough play right there, but Brett Laurie's just going to gobble the ball up, use his body, knock it down, take his time, don't panic, pick it up, and make an accurate throw. He's had a good night, like you said.
Casey Janssen has not pitched since Wednesday afternoon in Baltimore. Picked up the save. Retired the side in order in the bottom of the 11th. Dustin Pedroia. Been on base 3 times tonight. Ball on the strike. If the Blue Jays hang on and win this, they will improve their record to 10-17, which doesn't sound like much, but it's a start. Breaking ball fouled into the seats. The last time they finished in April with a 10-17 record, they had a great month of May. Went 21-8 back in 2003.
Well, it's a momentum changer when you can face the best team in your division, a team that's really been playing excellent baseball, and a tough pitcher in John Lester.
And the Blue Jays had several opportunities to fold up tonight.
Yep, and they didn't. They've gotten 2 big home runs from Double E. And they battled through it all. Had some good quality at bats and situations.
2-2 to Pedroia. Full count.
Well, Casey's going to have to throw strike here. He cannot put him on in front of David Ortiz.
He throws a strike. Kawasaki at short. 2 down. David Ortiz will bat with his club down by 2 back in the 4th inning. He led it off with a long homer. Ortiz has driven in 4. He had a bases loaded double in the 7th. But as Jack mentioned, now Jansen's facing him with 2 outs and nobody on.
Yep, he can hit a 2-run home run right now. The crowd getting behind Casey Janssen, the Blue Jays right now. It's good to see.
Ortiz is 0 for 9 against Janssen.
There they are. They're up and excited about a Blue Jays W here.
Nesmith, a long run, ball game. The Blue Jays win it, and they showed a lot of heart in doing it. They win 9-7. Just the third time the Blue Jays have won the first game of a series this season.
Well, and to do it against the first-place Boston Red Sox here at home, it's got to be a big lift for this ball club. They had an off day yesterday and really came home from New York with their heads down a little bit after being swept. That's never a good feeling, and I think this can be the kind of game that they can build off of. I think it was critical that they won this game, and now they have a chance to win this series, and that would be huge for them.
Tomorrow night it'll be Clay Buchholz against Mark Burley. Stay tuned for Connected. Baltimore and Seattle on Sportsnet Pacific. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow night.